A single text ignited Clara Bennett's world in flames. Her husband of 12 years vanished with their cash and a 20-year-old mistress, mocking her with a smug lol. But what if the real bomb wasn't his betrayal, but the secret clawing out from a dusty box under her bed? A lie so twisted it could save her daughter or doom them both. Blood stains the courtroom. A child's cry echoes in the dark. Will she unravel the truth before it's too late? Hit subscribe now and join us to 1,000 subscribers. Don't miss the twist that'll break your heart and blow your mind. The screen fades in with the soft jingle of a silver bell above the door of Velvet Haven, a chic boutique nestled in Chicago's bustling Michigan Avenue. Clara Bennett, 38, stands behind the counter, her jet black hair pulled into a tight ponytail, her sharp green eyes scanning the quiet Thursday afternoon. The hum of traffic barely seeps through the thick glass windows, and the air smells faintly of lavender and crisp silk. A sanctuary she's built from scratch. Then her phone buzzes on the counter, a sharp vibration slicing through the stillness. She glances down, expecting a supplier update or a late order confirmation. Instead, a single text message rips her world apart. Goodbye from Miami with Mia. Accounts empty. LOL. It's from Jim Harper, her husband of 12 years. Her fingers tremble, hovering over the screen, but her face stays steady, stone cold, like a seamstress threading a needle through chaos. The LOL stings like a slap, a cruel taunt from the man she'd trusted with her life. She types back, nails clicking against the glass, have fun. Then she locks the screen, slides the phone into her apron pocket, and turns to adjust a rack of velvet scarves. To anyone watching, she's just a boutique owner tidying up, but inside a storm brews. A storm she's felt gathering for months. The signs were there, subtle at first, then glaring like neon signs on the Magnificent Mile. Jim's late nights at the office that never matched his paycheck. The faint whiff of cheap floral perfume on his collar 6 months ago, brushed off with a laugh. Client meeting, babe. The way he'd changed his phone password, claiming it was just for security. 3 months back, she'd overheard him whispering into his phone in the garage. Don't let her know about Izzy. Izzy, the name that's haunted her for 8 years. Isabel Bennett, their daughter, lost in a car crash Jim caused when he drove drunk. Clara had blamed him ever since, though she'd buried that guilt deep, stitching it into the fabric of their fragile marriage. She'd started preparing, though she didn't know for what. 3 months ago, she opened a secret account at a different bank, quietly siphoning her personal savings, money from Velvet Haven's profits, leaving just enough in their joint account to keep Jim complacent. Call it instinct, honed from years of threading delicate silk through a needle's eye. Now, as rain pelts the windows outside, she knows she was right. The boutique closes at 6 p.m. and Clara locks the door, the click echoing in the empty space. She walks home. Her home, a brick townhouse in Lincoln Park, inherited from her grandmother, its deed stubbornly in her name despite Jim's years of nagging to add his. Another instinct that's paid off. In the bedroom, she kneels by the bed, her knees sinking into the plush rug, and pulls out a small wooden box Jim had once mocked. Just junk, Clara. Toss it. She'd kept it anyway. A nagging gut feeling she couldn't shake. Now, with trembling hands, she lifts the lid. Inside are dozens of letters, yellowed at the edges, written in Jim's jagged scrawl. They're addressed to M, dated back 2 years. Mia will replace her. Clara's just a shadow with that damn shop. Her breath catches, a sob clawing up her throat. 2 years? Not months, not a fling. 2 years of lies while she'd cooked him dinners, laughed at his dumb jokes, and built Velvet Haven into a name whispered with awe on Chicago's fashion scene. But there's more. Tucked beneath the letters is a faded ultrasound photo. Izzy, their baby girl, the one they'd lost. And beside it, a folded note in her own handwriting from 8 years ago. Jim killed her. I'll never forgive him. She'd written it in a haze of grief, convinced his drunken crash was no accident. She'd never told him, never confronted him, just let the silence grow. Clara sinks to the floor, clutching the ultrasound, tears streaming down her cheeks, hot and silent. Was I blind? Did I push him away? The room spins with self-doubt, but then her eyes harden. She wipes her face with the back of her hand, stands, and grabs her phone. Her lawyer, Nora Evans, picks up on the second ring. "Clara, you okay?" Clara's voice is steel. "Prep the papers. He just made his move." She hangs up, staring at the box, the letters scattered like fallen leaves. Jim thinks he's won, but he has no idea what's coming. And neither does she. Not yet. The screen fades to black with a single line. "What's in the box that could change everything? Stick around to find out." The screen flickers back to life with Clara Bennett sitting alone in her Lincoln Park bedroom, the wooden box open like a wound on the hardwood floor. The ultrasound of Izzy rests in her lap, its edges worn from years of secret mourning. Rain lashes the windows, a relentless drumbeat matching the thudding in her chest. She picks up one of Jim's letters, her green eyes narrowing as she reads. "Mia will replace her. Clara's just a shadow with that damn shop. 2 years, and she's still clueless." The words cut deeper than the lal from his text, a blade twisting in a wound she didn't know was still raw. 2 years of lies. While she'd poured her soul into Velvet Haven, he'd been plotting an escape with Mia Torres, a 20-year-old who'd somehow stolen her life. But then she finds it. A letter buried at the bottom, dated 8 years ago, the ink smudged as if written in haste. "Izzy's not dead. I couldn't tell you. I took her away. Don't look for her." Clara's breath stops. The room tilts. Izzy. Her baby girl, the one she'd mourned through 8 sleepless years, alive? Jim had staged the crash, the hospital scene, the tiny coffin she'd wept over. She'd blamed him for driving drunk, convinced he'd killed their daughter in a selfish haze. But this was worse. He'd ripped Izzy from her arms, let her believe a lie, and now he'd drained their account and run off with Mia? Why? To punish her? To free himself? Her hands shake as she clutches the letter, tears spilling onto the paper, blurring his jagged scrawl. She stumbles to her feet, grabs her phone, and dials Nora Evans. The lawyer's voice cuts through the static. "Clara, what's wrong?" Clara's reply is a growl. "He didn't just take the money. He's been hiding our daughter. Izzy's alive." Nora pauses, then her tone hardens. "If that's true, we'll tear his world apart to find her. Send me everything, texts, letters, anything you've got." Clara forwards Jim's Miami text, then stuffs the letters into a bag. She can't breathe, can't think, only feel the ache of 8 years lost and the flicker of hope that Izzy might still be out there. But Jim strikes back before she can catch her breath. The next morning, her phone lights up with notifications, dozens, then hundreds. An anonymous ex-post screams in all caps, "Velvet Haven sells fake designer crap. Clara Bennett is a fraud." Attached are blurry photos of knockoff bags, nothing like her curated inventory of silk and velvet. The damage is instant. Her inbox floods with cancellations. "I trusted you, Clara. Refund my $500 order now." Instagram comments erupt. "Scammer, thief." And by noon, her sales dashboard shows a 40% drop. She stares at the screen, hands trembling. This isn't just about money. Jim wants her reputation in ashes, her lifeline severed. Then her phone buzzes again. A text from an unknown number. "Pay $500,000 or Izzy disappears for good." Clara freezes, her pulse hammering. She sinks onto a stool behind the counter at Velvet Haven, the boutique's lavender scent now suffocating. She remembers the last time she held Izzy. Tiny, fragile, wrapped in a hospital blanket before the crash. She'd whispered, "Mommy's here," not knowing it was a goodbye Jim had engineered. Now this threat, a ransom for a child she'd thought was gone. Is it real? Is Jim behind it or someone else? Desperate, she calls Lucas Luke Grayson, an old college friend turned private investigator. He meets her an hour later at a diner off Halsted Street, his dark eyes narrowing as she slides the letter across the table. "Izzy's alive, Luke." "Jim took her, and now this." She shows him the ransom text. Luke scans it, then leans back, voice low. "This isn't just Jim. That ex-post, too coordinated. Someone's pulling strings. I'll dig into Mia. She's the weak link." By evening, Luke calls back. "Found something?" Mia Torres worked at a Miami adoption agency 8 years ago. There's a record of an Isabel Harper processed there. Same age as Izzy would be now. No adoption finalized, though. Trail goes cold after that. Clara's heart leaps, then sinks. Is he alive somewhere? Maybe in Miami with Jim and Mia. She dials Mia's number, stolen from Jim's old phone records. The young woman picks up, voice shaky. Who is this? Clara doesn't waste time. What do you know about Izzy? My daughter? Mia gasps, then stammers. I don't know anything. Jim said it was his past, that she was gone. Please, leave me alone. She hangs up, but the panic in her voice lingers. Clara stares at the phone, her mind racing. Mia's lying, or she's scared. Either way, she knows more than she's letting on. That night, Clara sits in the dark of her townhouse, the letters spread out like a map of betrayal. The ultrasound glows faintly under a lamp, Izzy's tiny form a ghost she can almost touch. She whispers to it, I should have known. I should have fought harder. Did she miss the signs because she was too busy with Velvet Haven? Did her coldness after the crash drive Jim to the... But then her resolve hardens. She dials Nora again. File it tomorrow. Divorce, fraud, whatever it takes. I'm getting Izzy back. Nora's calm cuts through. We've got him, Clara. Stay strong. The screen fades with a chilling line. Is Izzy a pawn in Jim's game or someone else's? Drop your theories below. The screen fades in with Clara Bennett pacing her Lincoln Park townhouse, the ultrasound of Izzy clutched in her hand like a lifeline. Rain streaks the windows, casting jagged shadows across the hardwood floor littered with Jem's letters. It's past midnight, but sleep is a distant dream. Her mind races with Luke's revelation. Izzy might be alive, tied to a Miami adoption agency where Mia once worked. The ransom text, pay $500,000, or Izzy disappears for good. Burns in her memory, a threat she can't unsee. She's already lost 8 years with her daughter. She won't lose her again. But who's behind it? Jim, alone in his betrayal, or something darker? Luke Grayson calls at dawn, his voice tight. Clara, I dug deeper. That adoption record for Isabel Harper, it's a front. No legit agency keeps a kid off the books like that. I tracked a payment from Jim's old account, $50,000 8 years ago to a shell company tied to a loan shark ring in Chicago. He didn't give Izzy up for adoption. He sold her to cover a debt. Clara's knees buckle and she grips the kitchen counter, the ultrasound slipping to the floor. Sold her. Her baby girl, traded like a bargaining chip. Luke continues. Jim's been gambling online for years. Lost big. Those sharks don't mess around. Izzy might still be with them. Clara's voice trembles. Find her, Luke, whatever it costs. She throws herself into the fight. Nora files the divorce papers citing fraud and theft, while Luke traces the loan sharks. Clara combs through bank records. 6 months ago, Jim withdrew $100,000 from their joint account, labeled consulting fees. A lie. It matches the timeline of his late nights and whispered calls about Izzy. She pieces it together. He's been drowning in debt, using her money to stay afloat, and now he's leveraged their daughter to buy time. Rage simmers beneath her fear. She trusted him, loved him, and he turned their family into collateral. Desperate for answers, she calls Mia again. The young woman picks up, her voice a shaky whisper. Clara, stop calling me. I don't know anything. Clara snaps. You worked at that agency. You knew Jim. Tell me where my daughter is. Mia sobs. He said Izzy was gone. Dead. I didn't know she was alive until he started freaking out last week, yelling about debts and keeping her safe. I swear, I thought it was just his past. Clara presses, who's he scared of? Mia hesitates, then mutters, some guy named Rico. That's all I heard before he kicked me out of the hotel. The line goes dead. Clara stares at the phone. Rico, a name, a lead. She texts Luke. Check, a Rico, loan shark maybe. But before Luke can dig further, the stakes skyrocket. At 8 a.m., Clara unlocks Velvet Haven, the boutique eerily quiet after yesterday's ex, post-fallout. She's barely hung a new rack of silk blouses when a crash shatters the silence. A brick sails through the front window, glass exploding across the hardwood. She ducks, heart pounding, and scrambles to the wreckage. A crumpled note lies among the shards. "Stop looking or you both die." Her phone buzzes. A video from the same unknown number as the ransom text. She opens it and the world stops. It's Izzy. 8 years old now, her dark hair a mirror of Clara's, her green eyes wide with terror. She's tied to a chair in a dim, concrete room, tears streaking her face. Her voice, small and broken, crackles through. "Mommy, please save me." The video cuts to a man's shadow holding a knife, his voice low, "Pay up or she's gone." And Clara screams, dropping the phone, and runs outside into the pouring rain. "I'll find you, baby, I swear," she yells into the empty street, her voice swallowed by the storm. She sinks to her knees, glass cutting into her palms, blood mixing with rainwater. 8 years ago, she'd failed Izzy. Let Jim take her away. Not this time. She calls the police, voice shaking. "Someone threw a brick through my shop. They've got my daughter. Sent a video." The officer promises a unit, but it's cold comfort. Then Jim strides in at noon, his too tight blazer straining over his gym-pumped shoulders, a smirk twisting his lips. A wiry lawyer trails him, clutching a briefcase. "Hey, Clara," Jim drawls, mockery dripping. "Thought I'd drop by before the movers take my half of this plate." The lawyer slides a stack of papers across the counter. "Mr. Harper's filed an emergency injunction. These documents prove he co-owns Velvet Haven. Until the court rules, we're sealing it for investigation." Clara's heart thuds against her ribs. She scans the top page. A contract dated 2020, her signature next to Jim's. It looks real, too real. 5 years ago, when Velvet Haven was just a dream in a rented storefront, Jim had helped log expenses. She'd been grateful, naive. Did she sign something then? Or is this a forgery, his final play? She meets his gaze, his blue eyes glinting with triumph. Mia hovers by the door, blonde hair falling over her face, avoiding Clara's stare. "You won't get away with this," Clara says, her voice steady despite the tremor in her core. Jim chuckles. "Try me. See you in court, sweetheart." He saunters out, the lawyer trailing, leaving the papers like a loaded gun. Clara locks the door, her knees buckling. She slides down the wall, the cool plaster against her back, and dials Luke. They've got Izzy on video, tied up, begging me, and Jim's claiming the shop. Luke's tone darkens. "That brick, the video, it's the loan sharks, not just Jim. I found Enrico Alvarez, runs a crew out of Southside. Jim's their puppet now." "I'm close, Clara. Hang on." She hangs up, staring at the shattered window, the note burning in her hand. The boutique, her soul stitched into every velvet hem, is a battlefield. But Izzy's life hangs by a thread, and Clara knows the sharks want more than money. They want silence. That night, she sits in the boutique's back room, replaying the video, Izzy's voice looping in her ears. "Mommy, please save me." She hugs her knees, whispering, "I'm so sorry, baby. I let you go once, never again." Doubt claws at her. Should she pay the ransom, give up the shop? But Nora's words echo, "We've got him." The screen fades with a question. Is Jim a monster or a man out of options? Tell us below. The screen flares to life with Clara Bennett standing in the wreckage of Velvet Haven, glass crunching under her boots. The jagged hole where the front window once stood lets in the damp October air, mingling with the acrid scent of lavender gone stale. Her hands, bandaged from yesterday's cuts, tremble as she replays Izzy's video on her phone. Her daughter's tear-streaked face, the shadowed man with a knife, the chilling ultimatum, "Pay up or she's gone." 8 years of grief crash into this moment, and Clara's resolve hardens like steel. She won't lose Izzy again, not to Jim, not to the loan sharks, not to anyone. The boutique's door swings open at 2 p.m., the silver bell jangling violently. Jim Harper strides in, his smirk sharp as a blade, his blazer stretched tight over shoulders. He's bulked up to mask a crumbling life. Behind him, his wiry lawyer shuffles papers, but Clara's eyes lock on Jim. "Miss me, Clara?" he drawls, voice dripping with mockery. Thought I'd check my investment before it's officially mine. He nods to the lawyer, who slides the forged contract across the counter again. Half this shop belongs to Mr. Harper. Step aside or we'll take it all. Clara's pulse hammers, but before she can reply, Mia Torres slips in behind them. Her blonde hair limp, her eyes red-rimmed. She looks fragile, broken. Not the smug mistress Clara expected. Mia steps forward, avoiding Jim's glare, and slides a USB drive across the counter to Clara. Her voice shakes. I recorded him last night. He's not just after the shop. He's working with them. Jim lunges. Shut up, Mia, but Clara snatches the USB and plugs it into her laptop. The audio crackles to life. Jim's voice, frantic, pleading into a phone. I'll get the money, Rico. Just give me a week. She's got cash in that boutique, I swear. If she fights, burn it down, take the kid too. The room stills. Clara's blood runs cold. Jim's not just a thief. He's orchestrating Izzy's death, trading her life to save his own skin. She meets his gaze, her voice ice. You're done, Jim. I'll save her. And you'll rot. He laughs, hollow and desperate. You'll never find her. Rico's got her locked tight. He storms out, the lawyer scrambling after, but Mia lingers, whispering, I'm sorry, Clara. I didn't know it'd go this far. Clara doesn't trust Mia, not yet, but the recording is gold. She calls Nora Evans. I've got proof Jim's behind the threats. He's working with a Rico. Burn the shop. Kill Izzy. Nora's tone sharpens. Send it to me. We'll bury him tomorrow at the hearing. But that night, the war escalates. Clara's alone in Velvet Haven, boarding up the shattered window with Luke's help. When a crash splits the air, a Molotov cocktail smashes through the side entrance, flames roaring across the hard. Luke yells, get out! But Clara dives toward the counter, grabbing the ultrasound photo of Izzy from a drawer as smoke chokes her lungs. The fire licks at racks of silk, her life's work turning to ash. She stumbles out, coughing, blood dripping from fresh cuts on her hands where glass bit deep. Luke pulls her to the sidewalk as sirens wail in the distance. Her phone buzzes. A new text from the unknown number. You lived, she won't. Clara collapses, the ultrasound clutched to her chest, sobbing. Izzy's all I have left. The boutique burns behind her, flames reflecting in her tear-filled eyes. She screams into the night. Why her? Why my baby? Luke kneels beside her, voice grim. Rico's crew, they're sending a message. But we've got that recording. We can still fight. Clara wipes her face, the sting of cuts grounding her. She dials 911, my shop's on fire. Someone's got my daughter. It's tied to the brick yesterday. The operator promises patrols, but it's hollow. Then her phone rings. Margaret Harper, Jim's mother, her voice breaking. Clara, it's me. Jim called from Miami. He's in deep with those sharks. He begged me to tell you he wanted to protect Izzy, but they're forcing his hand. He's scared, Clara. He might not make it. Clara's throat tightens. Margaret's always been kind. Baked her pies, called her daughter. And now she's pleading for her son. Part of Clara wants to scream. Jim stole Izzy. Burned her world down. Why should she care? But another part flickers with doubt. Is he a monster or a coward trapped by his own mistakes? She hangs up, staring at the smoldering boutique. Her phone buzzes again. Me at the diner, on Halstead, 8 p.m. I've got more. Clara hesitates. Trap or lifeline? She drives through the rain, the neon diner sign flickering against wet pavement. Mia sits in a corner booth clutching a coffee mug, looking younger than 20, like a kid caught in a storm. Thanks for coming, Mia whispers. Jim's lost it. Last night he was screaming at Rico on the phone, begging for time. I think they'll kill Izzy anyway, even if he pays. She slides a crumpled napkin across the table. I wrote what I heard, names, dates. Pay by Friday or torch it all. I'm scared, Clara. Clara unfolds it. Scribbled fragments. Rico Alvarez, South Side, 48 hours. Her hands shake. This isn't just about the shop anymore. It's life or death, hers and Izzy's. She looks at Mia, searching her face. Ally or liar? Why help me now? Clara asks. Mia's lip trembles. Because I thought I loved him, but he's not who I thought. He's killing us all. Clara drives home, the napkin beside her, replaying Jim's words. Burn it down. Take the kid too. She calls Nora from the car. Mia's got more proof Rico's involved. We end this tomorrow. Nora's sharp. If it holds, he's finished. Rest, Clara. You'll need it. But rest is impossible. She sits at her kitchen table, the ultrasound glowing under a lamp, whispering, "Hold on, Izzy." Mommy's coming. The screen fades with a gut punch. Will Clara save Izzy or lose everything? Your predictions below. The screen fades in with Clara Bennett standing outside her smoldering velvet haven at dawn, the charred skeleton of her boutique glowing faintly against the gray Chicago sky. Her hands, bandaged and blood-streaked, clutch the ultrasound of Izzy, the only piece of her daughter she salvaged from the fire. Rain has doused the flames, but not her resolve. Jim's voice from Mia's recording loops in her mind. Burn it down. Take the kid, too. Today, at the emergency hearing, she'll bury him and pray it's enough to save Izzy. She drives to the Cook County Courthouse, her green eyes bloodshot but fierce, Nora Evans beside her. Armed with a briefcase of evidence, the courtroom buzzes with tension at 9 a.m. Clara sits at the plaintiff's table, her bandaged hands clasped tight, a silent testament to the war she's fought. Across the aisle, Jim slouches in a rumpled shirt, his blazer swapped for defeat. His lawyer, a wiry man named Gregson, shuffling papers nervously. The judge, a stern woman with silver-streaked hair, peers over her glasses. Mrs. Bennett, you've requested an injunction against Mr. Harper for fraud, theft, and endangerment. Proceed. Nora stands, her voice slicing through the room. Your Honor, we have proof of a calculated betrayal, financial, emotional, and life-threatening against my client and her daughter, Isabel Bennett. The room hushes as Nora lays out the case. She starts with Jim's text, "Goodbye from Miami, accounts empty, LOL." Then the letters from the wooden box, proving 2 years of premeditation with Mia. The forged contract claiming Velvet Haven, flagged by Luke as a fake, too clean, lifted from an old tax form, he'd said. The ex post-trashing Clara's reputation, traced to Jim's IP address, the brick through the window, the ransom text demanding $500,000. Then the knockout punches. Mia's USB recording, Jim's voice crackling, "If she fights, burn it down, take the kid too," and the Molotov cocktail that torched the boutique last night. Clara watches Jim's face drain of color, his hands gripping the table, sweat beading on his brow. Gregson leaps up, voice shrill. "This is a setup. Mr. Harper admits to rash choices, the account, the trip, but these threats? Unsubstantiated. Mrs. Bennett's out for revenge, fabricating evidence with this mistress." Nora doesn't flinch, fabricating. We have a witness. She nods to the back, and Mia steps forward, heels clicking on marble. The gallery murmurs as she takes the stand, her voice trembling but clear. Jim forced me to sign fake papers, said it was for our future. He gambled away everything, our savings, loans he couldn't repay. Last week, he told Rico Alvarez on the phone to burn Velvet Haven and kill Izzy if Clara didn't pay. I recorded it because I was terrified of him. Jim shoots to his feet, eyes wild. "She's lying! She's in on it with her!" The judge bangs her gavel. "Sit down, Mr. Harper." Clara stands, her voice breaking. "Your Honor, this isn't about money anymore. It's about survival. He stole my daughter 8 years ago, faked her death in a crash I blamed him for. Now he's sold her to loan sharks, burned my business, threatened her life. I'm not here to ruin him. He did that himself. I just want Izzy back." She turns to Jim, tears spilling. "You thought you could break me, but I'm not alone anymore." The room stills, her words heavy as stone. Gregson tries again, desperation creeping in. "Mr. Harper was coerced. Those sharks threatened him. He acted out of fear." The judge's eyebrow arches. Fear that led to fraud, arson, and child endangerment? And this contract? Expert analysis shows the signatures forged. Mr. Harper, you emptied a joint account, used shared credit for personal gain, and now stand accused of orchestrating violence. Do you deny it? Jim stammers, sweat dripping. I just wanted out. I didn't mean for Izzy to... The judge cuts him off. I've heard enough. The ruling comes swift and brutal. All shared assets frozen. Mr. Harper is ordered to repay the joint account funds within 48 hours. Given the evidence of threats and endangerment, I'm issuing a restraining order and referring this to the DA for criminal charges. A deputy approaches, cuffs glinting. Jim lunges toward Clara. You've killed me, Clara. Rico, come for me now. She flinches but holds her ground as he's dragged out, his shouts fading down the hall. Then chaos erupts. The courtroom doors burst open and 2 officers rush in, breathless. Mrs. Bennett, we've got her! Clara's heart stops. Is he? She whispers. The lead officer nods. Found her in a Southside warehouse. Rico Alvarez's crew. The USB audio gave us the location. She's safe. Clara runs, shoving past benches out to the hall, where Izzy stands, 8 years old, dark hair tangled, green eyes wide. Clara drops to her knees, pulling her daughter into her arms, sobbing, Mommy's here, baby. I'm so sorry. Izzy clings to her, voice tiny. I knew you'd come. The gallery spills out, cameras flashing, but Clara doesn't care. Her world is whole again. 5 years later, the screen shifts to Velvet Haven's flagship store on Michigan Avenue, its silver sign gleaming above a chain of 5 boutiques. October 2030 brings the anniversary gala. Champagne flutes clink under crystal chandeliers, guests swirl in velvet gowns. Clara, now 43, steps to the podium, her black hair streaked with silver, her eyes bright with a fire forged in ash. The crowd hushes. Customers, supporters, young entrepreneurs, even Mia, now a partner in their work. Clara's voice trembles, then steadies. 5 years ago, a text broke my world. My husband stole my money, my trust, and tried to burn my life down. My shop, my daughter. I thought I'd failed. Not because I lost him, but because I didn't see him slipping away. She pauses, tears glinting. But failure isn't losing someone else. It's giving up on yourself. I stood in Velvet Haven, glass in my hands, blood on the floor, and chose to fight. Not for revenge, but for me, for Izzy, for every woman told her dreams don't matter. Applause erupts, but she raises a hand. Tonight's not just about this shop. It's about Velvet Hope. A fund Mia Torres and I built. We've helped 200 mothers escape toxic lives, start over, stand tall. That's my legacy. Not his ruin, but our rise. Mia joins her, their hands clasping, and the crowd cheers again. As the gala winds down, a figure lingers by the door. Jim, thinner, grayer, his old jacket loose on his frame. He doesn't approach, just watches. Clara excuses herself, stepping outside into the crisp night. He turns to leave, but she calls. Jim. He stops, head bowed. Saw the news. 5 stores. You did good, Clara. She crosses her arms. Why are you here? He shrugs. Guess I wanted to see it. Prison. It changes you. I'm off the gambling, working odd jobs. I'm sorry for everything. He shuffles off, fading into the dark. Clara lets him go. No anger, just closure. Margaret approaches later, her silver dress, a Velvet Haven original, her smile faint. He wrote you from jail, said you saved him by not giving up on Izzy. She hands Clara a letter. Inside, Jim's scrawl. Thanks for getting her back when I couldn't. I'm trying to be better. Clara sinks onto a bench, tears falling. Not for him, but for the weight lifting off her chest. Izzy runs up, now 13, hugging her. Love you, Mom. Clara whispers, love you too, baby. We made it. The screen fades with Clara's voiceover. From ashes, we built something stronger. What's your take? Did Jim deserve a second chance? Comment below.